Good morning. Welcome to CMS's HCPCS public meeting for durable medical equipment and accessories, orthotics and prosthetics, supplies, and other. My name is Felicia Eggleston. I'm a member of the CMS Part B drug team, and I will be your moderator for today. Agenda item number 4, attachment 16.87, request to either establish a new code to identify the very good knee or revise existing code L5856. Primary speaker is Mr. David Liddick.
So again, my name is David Liddick. I am an employee with ST&G Corporation. I'm the technical director for that company. I'm also a certified practitioner for 30 years, and I'm still practicing part-time. I have spent my career on primarily focusing on above-knee amputees. And what I want to talk about today is we brought in for a code request or a change request, and ST&G company, we're a really small company. We're a distributor. How do you turn it on? Is that it? Much better. Sorry. We're a very small company. We're an international distributor. So we are trying really hard to compete with some very large companies. And our goal is to innovate. Our goal is to make new things. We like finding new innovative products. We like promoting innovative products. I first saw the product I'm going to be talking about in Russia, and I brought it into the United States because I believed in what it provides to your average patient. So what we requested is either a verbiage change. We either want you to consider that in the functions of the microprocessor knee, which is the 5856, you have some really great features. The microprocessor knee brought about a new era within prosthetics and orthotics. Basically, we call them intelligent knees. And why were they intelligent? Because they helped the patient change what was happening in their knee without having to do a song and dance to control it. But we also feel that this really lends itself towards a new code. What the work group came up with is the 5828, and the L5828 is primarily related to a knee that's called the SNS, and the SNS has been around for 40-some years. It's been around for a long time. But it has some very unique features, and they're good features, and they're features that all the new knees incorporate into them. We all use the same features. So what we did, or what the 5828, the code that is being recommended by the committee, part of what it does is it has the ability to compensate the resistance of the hydraulic cylinder, okay? Now, there's a key word here, autocompensate. This is where things change. This is what intelligent knees changed. The SNS could not autocompensate. It was stuck on whatever that process set it up on a flat floor walking across this room. That's where it was locked into. It never changed. Now, within the mechanism of it, it has these different ports, and so as the knee bends, it changes the resistance for the knee itself as the angle changes. But it doesn't adjust to the difference between this floor, the stairs, the flooring, the carpet, gravel, etc., etc. The other thing that makes a huge difference when we come into the newer knees is that they use multiple items to switch it from stance, and stance being when am I supported. When all the weight is on there, that's stance. So this being my prosthetic side, that's stance. Swing being when the leg is coming through, okay? Two different functions. So both the microprocessor and the VGK work on having multiple mechanisms to control when you come out of stance and into swing. How does that happen? Before 2014, and 2014 being when we brought the VGK into the US. Basically, you had microprocessors being the only intelligent knee out there. The only knees that will compensate for the patients. And the SNS sales basically rapidly went down because there's something better to make our patients safe. And the reason why I am up here is about safety for the patients. It's hard for people like myself that have two good legs to understand what happens when you take away an ankle and a knee. It's very difficult. It's hard to wear. It's hard to control. So what we need to do is to provide our patients with an item that will allow them to have stability and allow them to be able to be in any place, at any moment, in any weather. Being where we are right now, you can experience weather extremes here. You can have hurricanes, you can have snow, you can have ice, you can have heat, you can have all these different things happen in the environment. And as you know, when you go outside, that environment affects how you walk. Same thing for an above-knee amputee. So, what I'm going to get into is how this happens, what it does, and what the VGK brings to the table. Now, I wanted to real quickly differentiate function in the sense of action, not function in how it gets done, but function in the sense of action. What happens to the patient? The 58-20-28 SNS is a single parameter swing initiation. So what that means is the knee has to be in hyperextension, and it switches a rod inside, and then the leg swings through. So there's a lot of ways to initiate that inadvertently. It has a manual adjustment to adjust swing and flexion, and by that, the prosthetist will adjust the cylinder to make it control those things. And then it's set for the life of the patient. It has a manual lock and a free swing switch on the cylinder for that patient to adjust it. And it has a stance support effective to 30 degrees. And what that means, and most knees have this, is when you're bending your knee, the hydraulic unit mechanically can give you a support for 30 degrees. And after that, it misses, the hydraulic unit falls within the alignment, and it misses it, and down you go. In majority of knees, that's all they give you. So if you're, for instance, kneeling down, you can't go all the way down before you lose that support. If you're, for instance, sitting in a chair, you get partway to the chair and then you collapse. So this is really an important effect. So the 5856 microprocessor, it has a dual parameter of when you switch. How do you get out of this? And now the microprocessor 4, C-Leg 4 now has another feature related to this. But I'm discussing the 5856, the original code. Anyway, it has the ability to be set up for a manual lock with a key fob to control that. But it's not a mechanical device used on the knee. It has stance flexion and stance extensioning, dampening, that's another code. It has swing and stance adjustability. And it also has stumble recovery. Now, stumble recovery is a huge thing to amputees because it's all about falling. It's all about safety. This was a huge feature that came about. So, getting into the meat of thing, the VGK. What is the VGK? What is it giving to you in the sense of function and action? First, it has an auto-compensating swing. And the auto-compensating swing, we call it motion feedback system. It's a way that mechanically controls the fluids. And then in stance, it has a vortex metering system, a separate unit that controls the fluids. And I'm going to demonstrate this in a moment. It is energy independent. It has 70 degrees stance. Anyway, I'm going to, just to move on, I'm going to get into all of these things as we go. How does this work? There's the key. What are the mechanics? Why is this different? What you're looking at is not a microprocessor. This is a patented technology. It is a revolutionary technology in the sense that Jacob Bunder, the developer and inventor of this, who's here, he has figured out how to make a simple fluid intelligent. He has figured out a way to make this stuff make adjustments. This graph is purely to show you that as the rate of the knee bending, okay, as the knee bends and the force applied to that knee joint you have a rate of bending. And the faster this moves, the quicker your knee is going to collapse under you. What you want is, as you bend it, you want it to stop you, give you time to control it. So the Vortex system gives you a flatter base. It's slowed you down and gotten you under control quicker. That's what it's all about. So, go back. So this, as far as I know, as far as we've ever seen, is the only video evidence of actual stumble recovery. Notice this guy, he comes around, he hits the cobblestone, it grabs his toe, and he lands on that bent knee. Now, a normal knee would relax and let you go down. It reacts instantly. And that instant support gave him time to catch himself and get the next step without rolling on the ground. And rolling on the ground is what it's all about, no matter what age you are. None of us like to fall, and it happens. But above knee amputees, and this guy's a very skilled amputee, it happened to him. And this was not the point of this video while they're doing this, it's what happened during the videotaping. Now, this is the function of using the knee to support your weight as you're going down. Notice how deep this patient goes with that knee. You can easily see a very severe angle right here, and she's supported by that. If anybody's ever done cross-country skiing, you know what telemark skiing is. I used to do it when I was at a younger age. It was difficult. She can do that. So, I really got to get moving here. This young gentleman, we brought it in, and he was trying everything he could to trick the knee. And so I learned a whole bunch of stuff on him. Notice that he's walking sideways, downhill, and he ends up walking backwards in a bent knee also. So the knee is bent and yet under control at all times. He doesn't have to set it up for it. It just does it instantly. So this is the same gentleman, same day. This particular clinic says, you know, I'm sorry, we set you up. We don't have time for people like you coming in here and talking about your products. So we put it on him because he has a microprocessor and absolutely loves it, and he'll shoot down anything that comes in the door. So I said, great. This guy's name's Pete. I said, Pete, make it fail, make it trip, make that knee go. Do anything you can to do it. He's very agile. This is not your average patient by any means. He's agile. But he could not trick that knee. He could not make it fail. And at the moment, he has now given up the microprocessor, gone to the VGK. This is something that we don't think about. This guy, again, same guy, very agile. He just sent this just a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago. And he's working in his yard. The ability to first pick up something under control and then bend the knee under control is huge. Good. So another time that people fall many times is backing up. Remember the kitchen and the bathroom, huge. 80% of all amputees fall then. He's pulling something backwards, using the knee as a force. So we request that either we revise the 5856 or we would like a new code, and we want the new code, and the reasoning why we want the new code is because of the systems that we have an increased support and yielding, we have stumble recovery, we have this unbelievable ability to walk backwards without having to check anything. And then it has another very unique feature, and that is the ability to walk downhill any steep hill and it automatically adjusts. It controls whatever the patient wants to do. The patient just goes. They don't have to think. They don't have to make any dances. They don't have to adjust anything. The knee just does that. It doesn't have any electronics involved in this thing. It's a new technology. We told him he could put a 35-pound pack. This is a student at a school. The second day I even used the knee. And they called his buddy over and does this. Now, we do not recommend this as a manufacturer, but I wanted to point something out that I think is important. There are times when you are doing something that you weren't planning on and you need to carry something. The knee will not fail you. The knee is there for you to protect you and your family or whatever, and is always available to use it in any manner that you want. So to recoup, we asked that we either change it or come up with a new code. Thank you very much. I just barely made it.
All right, we'll hear from Jacob Bonder.
Good morning, my name is Jacob Bonder. I'm actually the developer and inventor of the VGK and its underlying technology. I've had a first lovely encounter with the US systems applying for a patent, which has been a very, very good grilling, but I was impressed with the technical skill of the people who evaluated our application, but finally we managed to convince them that it was distinct and different. Regarding the VGK, I think Mr. David Litter has given an excellent presentation and overview over what it also got on offer, so I think you're fully informed to its capabilities. Using these few minutes to speak, I would actually really want to stress the dual input of the VGK. It uses two input parameters. The one is the angle measurement that the knee is fully extended before it releases into swing, together with the needful presence of the forefoot load, and that is the same set of parameters as you find in the microprocessor knee joints. And that is what has made the microprocessor knee joints distinct from ordinary fluid stance and swing knee joints that use a single gate parameter. So the VGK does use a double gate parameter, and that is what delivers the inherent safety that has been reported. In terms of control of the movement, when you walk down a hill for a longer time, fluids actually get warm because you use up friction energy that heats up the mechanism. Fluids get thin, and that is where many knee joints fail to deliver their normal function. The microprocessor knee joints do actually control for that property, or at least that is unofficially understood. It is not officially publicated. But the VGK uses the thinning out of the fluids, like in the vortex that you saw on the slide, because it allows fluids to spin faster, and therefore it actually accelerates its resistance. So the thinning out of the fluids is actually a trigger for the fluid to give more resistance to its own motion. And that is what we mean with control. Control is actually stabilize against environmental and user variables. Finally, something that's very easily overlooked, our technology uses no batteries, no external power supply, because there are no microprocessors that are hungry for electricity. It actually uses the surplus energy within the knee joint itself to operate the valves and the energy that it requires to operate valves. And that allows a permanent state of onness. The knee joint can deliver its function continuously. Whether you are sleeping at night and want to use it, you don't have to take it off charging points. Whether you are on a long trip to China and back and you fail to actually get your luggage out of the luggage system in time to have your charger to recharge, you can be on all the time. Or if you want to have a neatly finished cosmesis, you can still use the functionality of this device, which is highly similar to electronic knee joints, on a continuous basis without having to strip down the leg to charge. I hope these were some small clarifying points in addition to Mr. Litter's presentation.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes.
Is this vortex metering used in any other industries, or is this a completely new technology?
Within other industries, yes, it is used because it is a very, very robust system. You can appreciate that if you've got these big diggers that build your big buildings, when they lift up these little cranes, they use hydraulic pumps to lift it up. But now you go down in the morning or in the heat of the day and let the load go down. So you do not reabsorb the energy by like undo pumps. You actually let the oil go through a similar vortex system that dissipates the energy regardless of the fluidity of the fluid, and therefore it stabilizes the performance, and the operator can have a safe operation of the device irrespective of temperature.
Can you clarify for me? You mentioned as the fluid gets warmer, it spins faster. So what happens in the inverse if
Yes.
it's colder?
If it gets colder, it gets thicker. And then you've actually got a couple of valves in series. Now we go into deeper detail. You've got like a needle valve that is like seen in the more common knee joints. I appreciate that. But those needle valves, when the oil gets thin, they start to fail giving that resistance. And that is when the vortex picks up in delivering that resistance. So where the needle valve fails, the vortex takes over. And where the oil gets thicker in colder temperatures, the needle valve takes over because the oil gets thicker and the oil finds more resistance going through that valve, and the vortex loses out. So those together hold each other in balance, and from research it has been shown that the bandwidth of resistance from the VGK relative to, say, a benchmark rotary product is about 30%. So the rotary product, mechanical, has got a 3 times as wide difference in terms of its resistance it can offer as the VGK. And that obviously allows the patient to go downhill for a long time, and there is no temporary stopping that you've got to wait for anything to cool down. There's continuity, and that is a theme that is continuously going through all the different things that I've put in as designer, because I'm a clinician by trade. I've listened to my patients, and it is them that have got it hard to bring in all those functions of daily living into one product.
First of all, good job on the vortex. That's very clever for increasing the resistance. It's a clever design. I have a question about the criteria that are used to keep the knee stable and to go from stance to swing. Because in 1995, we developed a knee very similar, C-leg, which had dual criteria. And what we found was that's not enough to be able to control stability in the knee. Because anytime the user has weight through the forefoot, knees in full extension, you've now met the swing phase initiation criteria. If I have an awareness of where my center of mass is to the knee, I create stability. But any time knee in full extension from your knee angle sensor and forefoot load is followed by hip flexion moment, especially turning to the prosthetic side, you have a sudden collapse of the knee. So I noticed in all the videos, like the person being carried and the person moving in multiple directions, the knee can look very good in your videos as long as the user pulls aggressively with hip extension force. So without the IMU, there's absolutely no way to know that the user is actually moving backwards. And I see when he steps backwards, he keeps stance resistance because he has weight through the heel. But if he was to do the same motion with weight through the toe, loading the forefoot followed by hip flexion, the knee collapses. So in our current technology, we've gone from dual stance to now 3 criteria. And if you look at our advanced technology, we've gone to as high as 6, because the more criteria, the less risk to the user.
Right. I'm most honored having had this question, because it means that it represents a very good understanding of what we're talking about. It relates very much to backwards walking, which has been a problem in some microprocessor knee joints. We do not suffer that problem. The time's too short to go into the full detail, but to give you a glimpse and insight, the valving inside, it not only uses those 2 parameters of toe load and full extension of knee joint, it also requires a sharp, to the point initiation of flexion. And when you walk backwards, the movement is out of tune with the system to make it cause that collapse that has been seen in some microprocessor products that you're referring to. And I hope to have answered your question with this.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time and your consideration.